Doc Rivers continues to, time and time again, not get it when it comes to getting... Oh! Let him play!
You bet one bone to win 19. What site do you use where you can actually bet $1?
They let you do 50-cent bets.
Oh my goodness gracious.
Yeah, literally, like he dropped Superman down like the drain, comes out, like, God damn it, Superman. I don't know, honey. I don't know where he got that from.
From Los Angeles, this is Dave in the City,
Part of the Dit Cow Sports Network.
Now, here's Dave Medina.
Good evening, sports fans, and a pleasure to have you here for the big Dit Cow Football Show. Good to have you back with us from the Dave in the City studios at the home of champion Southern California. Oh, man, what an incredible week and a half it's been here in sports. And so much to talk about here. But before we get into anything else, I want to thank you all for joining us for the Discord / YouTube chat / Twitter / whatever it is, podcast event when we were doing a live reaction show for The Godfather 2. Junkie and I are so grateful to have your support. And the buzz has been amazing, and I really want to thank all of you for tuning in. It was a hell of a night. It was really fun watching that movie. It was a great movie. I think, we were trashing the original Godfather, I'm sure, but what's so interesting about that is that, it's like, I think the movie, the part 2 was honestly better than the original. It was a legit movie. It was so good. Like, I was really happy. I mean, I think Junkie and I were just so thrilled to participate in that and watch it and see it play out in real time for the first time. That was just such a unique situation. Like, for a movie that old to be able to watch that thing fresh, we did. It was amazing. So, thank you again for doing that. We'll be doing future such watch-alongs on the stream. I think we're really looking forward to that. And we'll debate what the next one will be, but we'll keep going. It should be really fun. So let's talk about some stuff tonight. Boy, we got news in college football, and USC and UCLA announced their departures to the Big Ten. Their applications were accepted on Thursday, June 30th, and since that time, just such a massive shakeup in the entirety of college football. I'm just it's pretty dang amazing. When you really think about it, how the Pac-12 has gone from like one of the preeminent conferences to basically nothing. They're done. They're done. I don't think they're ever gonna. I don't think they're gonna be a Power 5 conference after this. For USC and UCLA, to me, I think it's a great move. You might be surprised me saying that, being such a Pac-12 loyalist, but not anymore. I mean, they've been playing small ball forever, where everybody else is hitting home runs, and it's just been too much. So I'm very thrilled at this. And, it's just the Pac-12, like, I don't care. Larry Scott destroyed this conference. And there's no going back at this point. So it's just get out or be done. And I think other conferences are going to do this. Other teams or other programs in that conference are going to do the same thing. So that's it. I don't want to make this about me. So let's go talk to our friends tonight. We have Andy in Seattle and Ron in New Jersey joining us here on the program. Let me go ahead and introduce Andy first. And Andy, it's good to have you back. Nice to see you. I know we had a lot of juice in, we were talking about the U.S. Open and Live and everything. We had a lot of juice in golf too. So, but good to see you. How's everything going?
Good. Good to be on here. Who won Godfather 2? Who won Godfather 2? Is Hyman Roth winning still? Is the 1950 Miami still winning? Why did Fredo get club soda? No, I'm just messing. Why did Fredo only get a club soda? I like when he said, I'm smart.
I know.
But when he goes to Michael, he's like, why don't we do this more often?
He really is like that Mongo caller, right? That voice, like it totally fits. That's a great idea. That's a great call.
Yeah, I'm doing well. It's Yeah, a lot of, next week British Open, this week Scottish Open, last week Live. I can't wait to see who else signs up for the Live, because I'm not like pro Saudi or anything like that. I'm not anti PGA Tour. I love the WWF feel to it. Like there's or the
WCW,
reality aspect to it.
yeah.
It's all good. And plus, I like when our friend Oh Baby was like, that league's dead, and it's not dead, and I can't wait to see it continue to grow.
In fairness to Oh Baby, we said the same. Like Mike and John and I said the same thing on a previous podcast. So we're all gonna be Funhouse in about a month or so. So it's all good. So. Love it. Well, it's good to have you back, Andy. And let's go ahead and also welcome in Ron in New Jersey to the show. Oh, man, Ron, it's been a minute. How are you doing tonight?
Good, Dave. How's it going, buddy?
It's going well, except for your name over there. Let me fix that. Okay. Where's your name? I don't even see... Oh, man, has it been that long? I'm so sorry. I will fix that.
You deleted me, huh?
No! I just don't... I'm looking for it. I'll find it.
That's okay.
So, oh my goodness, big stuff in here in the serious stuff in college football, right? I mean, by the way, how was your weekend? Was everything good with the family? Fourth good? Everything good?
Yeah. Fourth was really good. It's like time flies. It seems like once the fourth is done, that weekend is done. I mean, you blink it and the summer's over. There's like 5 weeks and we'll be having college football. So it's crazy. Yeah.
So the timing of this announcement with respect to UCLA and USC announcing their intentions is very, very interesting here. And like I said, I love it. I'm so glad to have you on the program tonight to get into this, because there are going to be massive changes in college football, and I think a movement we all were speculating about the four super conference model. I think we're really close to being there now. It's very interesting, Ron. I'm going to go to you first. To me, it's a home run for the two individual programs. I think, as we know, the Pac-12 is fucked. We've established this. But I just was curious what you thought about these and all these announcements and the resultant impact on all the conferences in FBS.
Yeah, I guess, when Oklahoma and Texas left, we should have had the foresight to realize what was happening. But, even in that move on the surface, it was like, all right, the SEC is getting more loaded, whatever. But, I think it really hits home with USC and UCLA going that, I mean, you're right. The Pac-12 is fucked. I mean, you could add whoever you want to add in there. You could add Boise State. You could add, whatever whack team you want to add in. But the cachet of the Pac-12 is done. You're never getting it back, ever. Same with the Big 12. They added, or they're adding Cincinnati, Houston. But it's still, I mean, who's the real marquee of the Big 12 after that happens? Oklahoma State. I mean, it's not the same once you get those storied programs leaving. And we've had Oklahoma and Texas leave from the Big 12. USC and UCLA move from the Pac-12, and essentially, at least in my view, those conferences are dead. Yeah. When it comes to the prominence of the national titles and stuff like that, they're not going to be in the same discussion as the SEC, the Big Ten, the ACC for now, and it's just the first domino to fall. I think with those two. And we saw it the last time when there was realignment. It was once, the first domino fell. I mean, it was almost weekly you would hear well, this team's leaving and this team's leaving and this team's leaving. So I think it's going to ramp up. You're already hearing the rumors that Clemson and Miami will kind of want to get out of the ACC and are trying to buddy up to the SEC. And I was reading that Phil Knight wants Oregon to go to the Big Ten, but the Big Ten is kind of holding off and looking more at Notre Dame. And we've heard the rumors that the Big 12 is trying to merge with the the Pac-12. It's just it's crazy right now. It really is. And I think you're right, Dave. The end result that we're looking at when all's said and done is that, whatever the number of teams are, however many it is, like if it's 64, if it's 48, if it's 60, if it's 50, whatever it is, I think the end result we're going to look at is those the condensed Power 5 schools in one super league with however many conferences, whether it be two or if it's just one large conference. But it certainly seems like it's going that way, and it's getting there faster than I think we thought it would.
And it can happen that way. Sometimes you see something coming, but you're like, oh, I didn't think it was going to happen that fast, and here we are. It's kind of amazing. I mean, one could say it's sad that the Pac-12, who has a very proud history and a long history, going all the way back to the beginning of the last century, in the early 1900s, like 1900-something, when the 4 original programs were formed: Cal, Oregon, Washington, and one other one. I'm trying to remember who the other one was. But, honestly, we've been talking about it. Like, my other friends and I have been talking about how Larry Scott almost single-handedly destroyed the conference, all the Mongo stuff he did. Ridiculous. That stupid Pac-12 network that nobody watches. It's just things like that. So let's go back to Andy, and I want to get your take on this too. I mean, you will have opinions. The basketball impact is going to be huge. No UCLA or USC in college basketball in the Pac-12. I mean, that's a bummer too. So what's your thought?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just on the show just to kind of hear what Ron was going to say. And then, I mean, there's 8 different angles you could kind of jump off of. You can talk about long-term ramifications. You can talk about short-term ramifications. You can talk about all different theories on what's going to happen next. You can talk about, well, why did all this happen? You could talk about, I called it. I saw this coming. You can talk about Larry Scott. You can talk about, how awful that Pac-12 network was. And what if the Pac-12 network wasn't just a complete piece of shit? What if it was just like a C- of a network? Would we have this discussion today? We could talk about what if Oklahoma and Texas went to the Pac-10 all those years ago, like they were going to happen. They were almost like the pioneers of this domino effect conference realignment with zero respect to geographic situations, right? And then it didn't happen, and then all these other conferences kind of did what the Pac-10 originally was going to do. Look it up. We talked about it on the old board. Oklahoma and Texas were getting very flirtatious with the Pac-10 years ago, and it didn't happen. And now the Pac-10 is it's completely done. Echoing what you guys have been talking about just to start this program, and what people were talking about last week when the announcement was made. And, it's to borrow Doggy's phrase, if you're Washington State, you're done. You have no chance in hell to be relevant. If you're at Oregon State, you have no chance in hell to be relevant. If you're Stanford, you have no chance in hell to be relevant. Although 2 days ago, there was a rumor that the Stanford was going to be courted by the Big Ten at some point, but I doubt that. If you're Cal, you have no chance. And then Vanderbilt, Mississippi State, Northwestern, Indiana, it's not like those schools are powerhouses, but because they're part of the Big Ten, they can dream. Doesn't mean their dreams are going to come true. But again, if you're Washington State, you're not even dreaming at all. The way the conference is as shaped up now, and you can bring Boise State, you can bring on Fresno State, you can bring on whoever, UTEP. I don't know. You can try to rebuild the Pac-12. You can meld the Big 12 now with Cincinnati and Houston, and that's almost a regeneration of the old Conference USA. It's crazy how all these teams have just kind of spawned or whatever. But to bring it back to like what Ron said and what Francesca said years ago and what Herb Street had said, like, yeah, like we're closer to Mike Super 60 than we've ever been, or Super 64, whatever he called it. And then Herb Street was saying last week that like eventually, yeah, SEC is going to have like 20 teams or whatever, 24 teams. The Big Ten is going to have 20, 25 teams, whatever it is. And, yeah, you're going to have, like, those two entities is going to be, like, it's going to be the NFL and college. And it's going to be, like, the AFC and the NFC. And those are going to be the halves. And then, you know, your Arizonas and your Washington States, your Oregon States, they're all going to be left out. And they're basically, what are you going to do with them? They're going to – you just throw them with the teams from the MAC and the Mountain West and the Sun Belt, and they're just going to be like the new Division 1A and a half. I don't know, but that'll be interesting. And then the last thing I was going to say, and then Dave, you take over the show, is like it's a joke, right? Like we say it as a joke because like Fox is all about that Big Ten contract, and then like SEC is all about that is tied with ESPN, right? And then someone on Twitter was like, well, Amazon's going to buy it all. And then Amazon's going to own the NCAA. And, like, yeah, that's, like, totally Bach. But is it that far-fetched at this point? Like, we just saw, like, this crazy announcement with the two teams in Los Angeles going to the Big Ten. Oh, last thing, Dave, like, I do have to be a little fair about USC, like, for the longest time, like if USC sucks, then what USC does just kind of the Pac-10, Pac-12 reputation is basically relies on USC. If USC is good, then the Pac-12 gets like a little bit of respect. If USC is down, then the Pac-12 gets zero respect. And USC's had their share of down moments, and so the Pac-12 obviously has had their reputation just kind of blah blah blah, and then like now USC got Lincoln Riley, and now USC gets to jettison the conference. And you know, it's like, well, the part of the reason why the Pac-10 has gotten such a crappy reputation as of late is USC hasn't lived up to their end of the bargain. So it's crazy. And you know, 6 weeks from now or whenever next year when the conferences actually do shape up as like the new Big Ten or whatever, and it's like Michigan, USC, we'll be all in. We'll be all in on the game.
Yeah, those conference games are going to be lit, guys. It's going to be so good. Can't wait once we get to that year. But USC, like you said, they've been down, and I think. I always look back, and I'm a little closer to the situation than others might be here on the panel, but I've always interpreted it as just an administration that didn't really take the football seriously. And it was first the AD that Pat Hayden or whoever else before that, just didn't really take the program seriously as far as what the football program needed to do to be competitive, to be a player. They would hang on to guys like Clay Helton for whatever it was, 3, 4, 5 years, whatever. It felt like 5 years. So that was just a sign of them not taking this seriously. But that also began with the president of the actual university. Well, when Carol Folt came in. She was formerly with the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill. So she came in. I always had this impression that she was going to take things really seriously with the athletics. I think that she, and then, Jimmy Block's the chancellor over here at UCLA. I know that well because they're my employer. And then the ADs have changed over in both schools. And I just feel like both of these programs are taking athletics more seriously than they used to. And I feel like that goes hand in hand with the move. And it's a very, to me, I think it's kind of what they wanted for a while. And USC, and I'm sorry to just talk so much, but USC's definitely felt like they've been held back by the rest of the conference. Do you guys feel that way? Like, Ron, if you think back to some of the rumblings about USC wanting to leave or be independent or go to another conference, I feel like they've wanted to do this for years. and this is their moment. So, if we talk about the USC aspect of it, what's your takeaway?
Yeah, and Andy's 100% right. I mean, when USC is one of the storied, franchises in college football. So when they're good, it shines a different light on the Pac-10, and when they're bad, the whole conference is down. Mm-hmm. And USC would have benefited from a team like Oregon if they could have maintained the level of success that they saw under like Chip Kelly and when he got in there and kind of set the tone for them, and they were going to be the next great college football program. And credit to them, they recruit top 5 every year, but we've talked about it for years. I mean, it doesn't really translate to what you see on the field. I mean, they just haven't been able to get over that hump of really good program to elite program. And I think USC needed that other team in their conference to really push them. I mean, really, they the president of the USC athletic department was looking at the conference and saying, Oregon's going all out. They have Phil Knight. They're spending, millions of dollars on a new coach every 2-3 years, recruiting 5-star kids, and they still can't win a national title. So, why are we, after the Pete Carroll years where, we, obviously USC did stuff under the table, and every program did, but USC had, that maintained level of success that shined the spotlight on them. So I think kind of when Carroll left, they looked around the rest of the teams of the conference and said, why are we putting ourselves in a precarious situation where, we could ruin our reputation, get all these sanctions, pay these fines, when nobody else is significantly better than what we are. So let's just keep it at status quo. Hopefully we'll break through one year. And it hasn't happened in the past, decade, but I think that's what the thinking was. And you're right, Dave. I think with the implementation of the NIL and, the transfer portal, I do think USC and to an extent UCLA has kind of been gearing up, once those two things got into place, to make a move out of the conference. Now it's everything goes. I mean, you could get, throw the money at the recruits and it's all legal. So I think, once they fired Clay Helton, they really tried to get their ducks in a row and, kind of get everything back on track and actually turn their full attention to the football program with eyes on moving out of the Pac-10. And, I agree. That's the way it's been going. And, it'll be interesting to see them, if this never materializes into the Super 64 or whatever it is, and it's just a standalone move where UCLA and USC is in the Big Ten, which I don't think it is, but if it actually turns out to be that, it'll still be really interesting. I mean, I'll love to watch it.
I would too. I mean, will too. And, and so now you talk about the aftermath of this kind of a move. The easiest thing to project is that the Rose Bowl is just not going to be the Rose Bowl anymore, whereas it used to be Pac-12, Big Ten. It's pretty much just Big Ten. I think they can do away with that now. I don't think this whole idea that the Pac-12 and the Big Ten should be prioritized whenever it's not a playoff game, that no longer exists because the Pac-12 is donezo. So the bowl game, the bowl ramifications are huge here. And it does make me wonder if the Pac-12 will now, the Rose Bowl will now kind of fall a little bit more in line with like the playoff scheduling and not insist on being on January 1st at 2 o'clock local time all the time. I don't really care about that. I think that's fine. Maybe Andy might be, and yourself, Ron, might be more into that. But so many things to talk about here. Andy, since you follow college basketball fairly closely, like, How much is college basketball going to hurt or be helped by these moves? Obviously the Pac-12 is not going to be what it used to be. But what do you think?
Well, so in terms of college basketball, I mean it's fun. There's juice, there's gambling, and everyone gets into it in March. But I think when these higher ups make these decisions, they don't care about college basketball.
Mm-hmm.
They don't care about the Olympic sports, obviously. Like Rutgers is not playing UCLA in soccer. They'll figure out what to do with like the soccer programs and the track and field. Like Stanford water polo. Like I don't think a lot of the Big Ten schools even have water polo. So they'll deal with that they'll deal with that in due time. But in terms of college basketball, I'm guessing that's why the Big 12 wants to make a big push to get Arizona, because Arizona is a big-time program, right? So the Big 12, they've already lost Oklahoma and Texas, which are pretty good basketball schools, but they still have Kansas, they still have Baylor, they still have, Oak State. And so if the Big 12 can get Arizona, if they can get Oregon, if they can get, some of those other schools, Houston, Cincinnati, the Big 12 can be a good basketball conference. I think the Pac-12's done.
Yeah.
To piggyback what you and Sports Pope were talking about last week on the Discord, and Sports Pope was like, I don't like why would USC do it? I don't think just again to talk about like the powers that be, like the Plodwicks of USC, the people that are on the board or whatever, like they don't care about tradition. They just care about the bottom line. Like I was thinking about this today, like the USC home games, like I don't think the people or the UCLA home games, I don't think the people at UCLA care that the stadium might be like 50% Penn State fans, right?
Right.
You're gonna get a lot. They just want be kind of like a Charger crowd, like when the Chargers have home games, like 40% of the people at SoFi are people from out of town. But like, those Big Ten fan bases are like, oh crap, we're going to UCLA in November, like road trip. And I feel like that's more of a selling point for everything, right? Like
right.
money, seats in the building, all that stuff.
Well, it's the alternative to that in UCLA's case is no seats in the building. I've been there plenty of times, I can tell you that. So that's probably going to affect the UCLA games more than the USC games, because I think USC's got a decent fan base. Like I think I've seen them been taken over from time to time, but UCLA is much more vulnerable to that. But I don't think like you said, I don't think they care. I don't think it matters. I think they're happy to have the juice.
Dave, Andy's 1,000% right. That's what it comes down to, right? I mean, and I didn't hear what Sports Pope said, but I see, like guys like Sharon will always say, like, why can't it go back to, the conferences where the guys, it's Rutgers and Syracuse and Missouri and Colorado because it's never going to go that way. It's never going to be like that, and it's all about money, and it's all about the bottom line. And it's all about the TV packages. So if you're USC and UCLA, you see the writing on the wall. I mean, the Pac-12 network sucks, and that you join the Big Ten, and they could re-up at Fox. They could represent it and say, listen, as a conference, we added these two teams, marquee teams, the LA market. We got to redo the TV deal. You're talking about billions of dollars, and these teams making hundreds of millions of dollars by switching conferences. And I know there's like the payouts and stuff like that, but in the long, the adults are in the room, as Andy would say.
Right.
So can't get enough of that.
Yeah. So at the end of the day, when you're looking at it 10, 15 years down the road, you're making money hand over fist, going to the Big Ten and re-upping with their TV deals. And the other interesting point that you made, Dave, about like the Rose Bowl has been cock blocking the college football playoff for basically since it started, with the expansion and stuff like that, they don't want it. They want to keep their traditions and stuff like that. Well, 2025 is when the playoff runs out. The playoff contract runs out. So, I think that's what these conferences are looking towards. They're looking towards 2025. We are going to maximize all the teams that we can to make our conference as attractive as possible. We're going to sell that or resell it to the TV providers, see how much we can get. And then from there, we're going to take it and say, we got the 20 best teams in our conference. SEC is the 20 best teams in there. And we're going to have our champions play each other in a playoff. We're going to sell that to Amazon, Apple, whoever it is, for $100 billion. Mm-hmm. And at the end of the day, that's what it's all about. It's all about making money. It's a business. These colleges don't care about tradition. They don't care about, the 80-year-old Mongo fans who call in the mic and, back in my day and this and that. They don't care about that. They care about the bottom line, making money. And, that's where it's going. We just got to get on. Either you get on board or you stop watching. I'm all for it. If that's the way it's going, count me in. The other teams that get left out, obviously, will have to figure out something to do with themselves or some sort of, subdivision or something like that. But it's just there's nothing that we can do. No amount of complaining is going to change the trajectory of where the sport is going right now.
It's an interesting study because I feel like this all started around the turn of this century, so the year 2000. I feel like college sports really became popular to the extent where you're talking about like massive TV ratings. And I think if you think about what it was like before, you had split polls, you had the AP rankings and the coaches' rankings. You didn't even have the same team playing each other for the championship a lot of the time. So the tradition that we talk about, I think it's a little overrated, to be honest with you. Andy, how would you weigh in on that?
So I love tradition. There are certain, we could play devil's advocate for a second too, but first, just to expand something real quick about the money thing, like Ron's mentioned facilities before everyone was talking about facilities. Ron was always he was ahead of the curve when it came to facilities and how that was such a recruiting tool for these guys, state-of-the-art facilities, state-of-the-art weight room, state-of-the-art locker, everything. Kids love that stuff. And Mississippi, the middle of the road, bottom of the barrel SEC schools and the Big Ten schools probably have nicer facilities than Washington, maybe not Oregon because of Phil Knight. But what I'm trying to say is a crappy SEC school, that doesn't do well, that's 5-7 every year, will have better facilities than a 9-3 Pac-12 school, and that comes from the money that comes in with all their contracts and everything. And that's, as just to piggyback on the adapt or go extinct like a dinosaur, and that's why it's a no-brainer for these schools, UCLA and USC, and who else may follow down the line. But Dave, about tradition, if you want to play devil's advocate, there was some. I follow college football Reddit on Twitter, and they posted this message board post about a West Virginia fan that's we were in the Big East, we were in the new Big East, and now we're in the Big 12. And all our rivals, we don't consider Baylor a rival, we don't consider Oklahoma a rival. Our rivals are Pitt, Penn State, and we don't play them anymore. It's conference realignment is cool, but we feel, and this is just one West Virginia fan, it's not a poll or anything. This West Virginia fan's we feel out of place in the Big 12, but it is, we can't change that. Like if we had our druthers, we'd play Pitt every year. We'd play Penn State every year. But that's not happening anymore. So yeah, like tradition is good, but it's not the end all be all. There's still plenty of tradition, like Ohio State, Michigan, Auburn, Alabama. That's UCLA, USC. They're still gonna
it's true.
They're still gonna do their thing. But yeah, like I mean, Nebraska, Colorado went away a long time ago. It sucked, but like we can just daydream back to Colorado, Nebraska day after Thanksgiving, and it gets the job done.
Yeah, and both programs since that time have been really falling off too. That's what's interesting about it. They both used to be really good top. I don't know about top tier, but like solid tier programs. But staying on the topic of where do programs go from here, there are two I'm going to give you. Oregon, I am almost sure they will move to another conference. They're just too good a program. Isn't anything like track, football, basketball, whatever it is. They're going to have to go somewhere. Where do you think they go? And Notre Dame, do they finally join one of these giant conferences? And Ron, I'll start with you.
Yeah, and our friend ACQ, sent a link today to a story about Notre Dame, and he's a big Notre Dame guy. And, he's been kind of, the traditionalist, and, they should stay independent and whatnot. But the article is basically saying they're losing money staying independent and not joining one of those conferences with the big time television deals and the television rights and stuff like that. So, I mean, and we see now where it's going with like Notre Dame, right? I mean, like, they always recruited well, but the past decade or so, I mean, and it's always been known that it's harder to recruit at Notre Dame for their academic standards and whatnot. But so for the past like decade or so, even with Brian Kelly, it kind of like waned a little bit. They were near the top, but they weren't, top 10. But you've seen like a push recently in their recruiting, and I don't think it's all the changing coaching staff. I think they're another team. If we were looking back a year or so ago at UCLA and USC, and we could kind of see, them gearing up to move to the Big Ten. I think Notre Dame is doing the same thing. I think they are stockpiling a talent, whenever their deal is up with NBC, I think they're going to make the move to the Big Ten. I think it's a no-brainer. You get the instant rivalries. I mean, they basically play a Big Ten schedule as it is, with Michigan and Michigan State and Purdue. Throw Indiana in there, Northwestern. So it makes sense. And Oregon, I think, Oregon makes the most sense to the Big Ten as well. I mean, if you're adding teams from LA, it just depends on, I guess, I don't know if there's going to be a bidding war per se for them. But they could kind of pick whatever conference they want to go into, the way the chips fall. I mean, I can see them. Oregon is basically set up like an SEC team, if you think about it. I mean, they have an SEC coach. They kind of recruit on the same level, like I was saying before, as the SEC teams. They constantly get the top 5 recruiting classes. So, I mean, they kind of model themselves after the SEC. So, I guess it just depends on how the chips fall, where they may. I have a hard time looking in the crystal ball and saying, this is where these teams are going to end up and this is where these teams are going to end up. I think at the end of the day, it's going to be, this, like Herb Street said, like Andy was saying, it's going to be these 2 like mega conferences with teams from the East Coast to the West Coast, and just like a hodgepodge of whatever teams from the conferences, and you were going to take it from there.
No, well said, Ron. I completely agree. I think bigger and better for each of these conferences is the theme. Andy, let's swing it to you. Same question.
Yeah, well, so like Ron drew up like the Big Ten plus and the SEC plus with the 3 divisions in each conference, and it was like awesome. Like you get into it. Like it'd be weird at first, but yeah, you get into it. And basically, it was like SEC's gonna poach a bunch of ACC schools, and Big Ten's just gonna take a bunch of Big 12 and Pac-10 schools. Yeah, SEC's gonna take some of the Big 12 schools too in the Southwest or whatever. But as far as Oregon goes, yeah, I don't know. They could go to the Big 12. They could. We have no idea what's going to happen next. All we know is USC and UCLA are going to the Big Ten. Like the day after that, the internet rumor was like Oregon and Washington are going to follow. Then the next day it was like Oregon, Notre Dame, Stanford, and Washington are going. Then like the next day, like the Big 12 had 6 Pac-12 schools on their list that they want to bring over to the Big 12. Then like that afternoon, it was like the Pac-12 and the ACC were going to form an alliance. So tomorrow, who knows what is going to be presented. You know, if you're Oregon, you know, the initial feeling is like og shocked, right? Like USC and UCLA are gone. Like, what is Oregon going to do? But as Ron mentioned, like Oregon, like they're not in a bad position at all. Like they can get just kind of like wait and see, let some more dust settle and see what happens. Like I think like Washington's on a little more of a shaky ground. Their fan base is just they're delusional beyond comprehension. Like they think they're a blue blood program and they're clearly not. And like where are they gonna go? Like, and I have all my Washington State friends like are like so depressed because Washington State, like they're an okay school. They're in Pullman, Washington is a little community. All right, like there's no cachet to Pullman, Washington. So, like they're a have-not. Like they are a complete have-not right now. And I have a friend that's like, oh, I'm not watching. Like he's like. He'd be perfect on like, you know, when the guy that's burning his Kansas City Chiefs jersey like 3 years ago was like, I'm not watching college football ever again. Like you will at some point. Like you're bitter. I get it. Like the Arizona Wildcat fan is bitter right now, but the Oregon State fan is bitter. The Arizona State fan is bitter because you know, like you're not wanted by like the Big Ten or the SEC. So it's kind of crazy. It's awesome to talk about. It's awesome just to hear what may or may not happen. Like it beats talking about like, you know, some of the other stuff going on in the world. So it's an awesome distraction, and it's like it's here. Like, you know. It's not UCLA and USC are in a year's time are not playing in the Pac-12.
Yeah,
it's crazy to think of. It was crazy to dream about.
Yeah, it really is. Like, I'm with it. I mean, you know, it doesn't. I don't think it's really sunk in with me yet that this is actually going to happen, but it's happening. There's no going back.
And, you know, it's funny. Like, we joke about it, like, well, what's going to happen to, like, water polo? Like, and Bill Walton's probably depressed too. Like, what's going to happen to the, like, we just joke about it, like, yeah, what are they going to do? But, like, there's people that actually have to, like, figure out, like, what exactly is going to happen to, like, all those other programs, like baseball, men's soccer, women's soccer, all the Olympic sports, like, someone else is gonna actually have to figure that out. Good luck to them.
Yeah, absolutely. I hope it all works out for those folks. So, that's pretty good. I mean, we could talk about Washington, where they go. I don't know, and you'd have a better idea. Do they just stick it out?
No, but I did. So I went down this rabbit hole. I read like Kentucky soccer. They don't play in the SEC. They actually play in the Sun Belt. Just to keep costs kind of relatively low. So
I guess that's not that.
So-
Yeah. Okay.
So what up? Like, so take Cal Berkeley. If like the Pac-12 completely disintegrates, like
Yeah.
Cal, like Aaron Rodgers is gone, like Sonny Dykes is gone, like they're an academic school, like they might just go to what, like the Big West and play with like UC Davis and
That's crazy.
San Diego.
I didn't. You're right though. That's very possible. Wow. It's very possible. Yeah. Mountain West. Actually, maybe Mountain West would be the one. Would that make more
Yeah,
sense?
I don't know if it was Ron that brought it up last week or someone else, but like the Mountain West in football is not that, like, it's very comparable to the Pac-12, even with USC and Oregon and UCLA.
Yep.
So, like, and that's a fun conference to follow. We all like it. Like, I don't know. I feel like you could, between the Big 12 and the remaining Pac-12 members in the Mountain West, they could form something sexy.
Yeah.
I think if you were to choose between the two, and these two, I'll lay them out, but it would either be the Mountain West absorbs the Pac-12 and they become a big old Mountain West, or the Pac-12 absorbs the Mountain West and they just become the new Pac-12. Which way would you see that going, and would it make sense? Ron?
I think it's all semantics. Anyway.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
It's pretty much the same thing.
And branding and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm sure it would be the Pac-12. You know, has just the name alone has more of a cachet and selling point. So they would take that, but that would be a fun conference to watch. I mean, give me those games on a Friday night, a late Saturday night. Give me that conference playing games. I'm in. You could take the Pac-10, the Big Ten, and the SEC. And that's all well and good, but I'd be just as into Fresno State and Arizona on a Friday night at midnight, just to give us something to do, something different. I mean, I'm in. Let's do it.
Yeah, I mean, so maybe it's not all bad for the Pac-12. I mean, like I said, they are. Let's just be clear, they are fucked. But the end result could still be a very interesting product if it turns out that they end up merging the two conferences together. Maybe
merge the whoever's left when the dust settles in the Big 12 with the Sun Belt and the Conference USA and the AAC, whatever it is. And I mean, you got yourself definitely not like national title contenders or anything like that, but you take the cream of the crop from all those conferences, and you got a really fun product to put on the field. Those. The Sun Belt is, especially this year, is going to be as good as, the middle and bottom of the Big 12. The top of the Sun Belt is just as good as them. And I think that's what we've seen too, like in the past, decade or so, right? Is like the Sun Belt, like the top of the Sun Belt, the top of the Mountain West certain years, the top of the AAC. Those teams are just as good and just as competitive as, they're better than like the Oregon States, the Arizonas, the Colorados. They're just as good as the Texas Techs, Kansas. So it's I know like traditionalists and stuff like that. I mean, it's like, oh no, what's going to happen to the Big 12? And I'm sure it means more if you're a fan of those schools, but as someone like myself and like we are, who like just wants to see a competitive game and fun football, the possibilities are, I mean, they're exciting. If you ask me, it's almost more exciting to see what happens with those the non-Power 5 conferences. Because at the end of the day, I mean, you might get like matchups that will keep us interested. We always have like find like our favorite like non-Power 5 teams and follow them. So bring it on.
Let's go.
I'm all for it. Yeah.
Well, that's really well said, Ron. So let's just give it to each of you for final thoughts on this. We have about 10 minutes left, so we could talk about the Baker Mayfield trade, which I mean, even though it's a big headline, it's not nearly as interesting a topic to me because I just don't know. But Andy, any would you if we could put a ribbon on this scenario with the Pac-12 and the Big Ten and the Mountain West and the USC and UCLA, like what's your final takeaway from
I don't really have no final takeaway. I'm just curious to see what the inertia of the ACC, like what's the ACC's end game. I mean, besides Clemson and Miami, or I don't know about Miami, but take away Clemson, the ACC ain't that good. So I'm curious to see what happens to the ACC if the SEC goes after Clemson and some of those programs with some aggressive behavior in the next couple years. And then, closing points on the Pac-12. Rest in peace.
Yep.
And, enjoy this year. And then we'll be curious to see what, the actual next domino is going to be. And maybe, 3 years down the road, as Ron mentioned, you're just going to have to get it out of we're going to have to untrain our brains. If you're Washington State, you might play Eastern Washington every year. Eastern Washington's, a good team. You might play you might have a new rivalry with Montana 5 years from now. You might have a rivalry with Utah State. I don't know. You get creative. San Diego State. Yeah, the other thing was a week ago was maybe the Pac-12 can get San Diego State. No. San Diego State's not going to fix the loss of UCLA and USC. just you have to figure it out. But yeah, you can create new rivalries with some of these West Coast schools, and we're already seeing it as we get into the Sun Belt. MAC has kind of taken off, and the MAC got creative. Going on a decade now with. It's not just Maction on Wednesday night. It's Maction on Tuesdays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays in the fall. So yeah, these programs are just gonna have to get a little nutty, because you gotta get a little nutty. The bowl games in the Bahamas. Just stuff like that to keep us Mongos interested.
Yeah, I love that, Andy. That's well said. So let's go to Ron. Any final thoughts as far as the college football scenarios?
No, I mean, I'm sure, in the next week or so, the next domino is going to fall. And I think it's like Andy said, the inertia is going to be that, it's just going to be keep spiraling, and it's going to be, new stuff every, maybe month or so, a couple weeks. But the dominoes are going to fall. And, the next piece of the puzzle, I think, is the ACC. Figuring out where those schools go, and it's just the tip of the iceberg. So it'll be interesting, but it's crazy to think about UCLA and USC. If you told me 2 weeks ago they were going to be in the Big Ten next year, would have thought you were crazy. Obviously, it's always a possibility, but you never think those blue chip type programs are going to leave their conferences, but it's happening. So, let's get on board. Stir it up. Let's make it all fun.
Yeah. And not only has it happened twice. Like you mentioned, Oklahoma and Texas going to the SEC. That made news. Yep. This is even bigger news. Because one, that's bad enough. You're really hampering the Big 12, but this is practically he's literally killing the Pac-12 as we know it today. Andy's absolutely right. RIP Pac-12, 100%. So that'll put a bow on it. Man, incredible. It's going to be a very interesting college preview, Ron, once we get there next month. I mean, so much.
Yeah, I think this might be the last year where we kind of, have those 4 or 5 teams that we know or at least think are going to be, locks for the college football playoff, especially with the NIL deals and stuff like that. I mean, no sport has changed as quickly and as much as college football has in the past 2 years. I don't think in the history of our country, maybe since baseball integrating. I don't think there's been a sport that's changed as much so quickly. Because when we look back on it, college football in 2019, prior to coronavirus, to 2022, 2023 is going to be two completely different sports, and it's crazy.
It is, and the pandemic was part of it, but there's the much bigger part was the NIL scenario. I think that has a lot more to do. That has just as much to do with it. So an amazing time, an unfortunate time for some maybe, but I think for us it's an exciting time all in all. So it'll be very interesting to see where we go. So let's just spend like a minute on this trade. And so the trade today from the NFL, the Panthers have traded for Baker Mayfield in exchange for a 2024 conditional 5th round pick. Look, the problem is Baker Mayfield just isn't that good. I assume it's an upgrade. Andy, I'll start with you. Sam Darnold obviously was underwhelming as well. I don't have a lot to say about this, to be honest with you. What do you say?
Yeah, I don't really have a ton. Ron mentioned earlier, the Panthers might just be kind of rudderless, because they had to give up a handful, I think, of draft picks to get Darnold, number one, right? And Darnold is not that good. And then they're basically doing the same game plan to get Baker Mayfield. So you've just kind of, I don't know how many draft picks combined, but now you don't get to draft those picks, and you're gonna maybe go away from Darnold to go Baker Mayfield. And that's not really elevating the position that much based on what you gave up. And then for the Browns, where I stand on the Browns. The first good move they make would be the first ever. Yeah, it's I don't know. They have to figure. I don't know what they're gonna do with Deshaun Watson. I don't know. The Browns are just they're not a fun team to kind of gloss over. But in the Panthers, they're, I don't know. Maybe we all got Matt Rule wrong for whatever reason. I still think he's a good coach, but maybe he's making a fortune. They literally rolled out the red carpet for Matt Rule. So I don't. When things like that happen, it's ooh, they might. Some of these owners, or GMs in this instance, or whatever, if you get rid of the guy too quickly, then they're admitting a mistake, but because it's an ego thing, right? So they're gonna be kind of stubborn and maybe stick with Rule for a few years rather than try to cut bait. Ooh, yeah, we might have made the mistake, but Rule was an awesome coach in college. You saw what he did in Temple. You saw what he did in Baylor. It was only logical that he would trend in the same direction at the NFL. He just hasn't yet, except for that first year where he kind of overachieved.
I'm not giving up on him either. I think he just doesn't have much to work with at all, honestly. I don't think it's just not a good team. So how is that on the coach, really?
Yeah, I think, the guy McCaffrey, he gets hurt too much. They just they just need a sexier roster.
Yeah, exactly. Ron, any thoughts yet as far as the trade from Baker Mayfield?
Yeah, I thought the play for this year for the Panthers would just be to kind of go with Matt Corral, who they drafted from Ole Miss, and just play him the whole year. And if he succeeds, he succeeds, and if not, you're in a prime spot to get a move on, I guess, from Rule and Darnold, and get a franchise quarterback at the top of the draft next year. I thought that was a smart play to do, but that owner in Carolina is chasing quarterbacks, so. I think this actually is probably the death nail in Rule, because if you get Mayfield after you got Darnold, and you have another 6-11, 5-12 season, they'll probably start over and just blow it all up again. Terrible move, in my opinion, but they're just an uninteresting team.
Yeah.
Like both of you guys said, that their roster is just like, outside of McCaffrey, it's just like, who, and it's just like they're such an uninteresting team to watch. But and Mayfield doesn't help it, in my opinion.
Nope.
But whatever. That's the way they go, and we'll see if he can do anything special there. I don't think so.
Yeah, exactly. I could not agree more with both of you. And that's a good place to end tonight. This has been a fun one. Thank you so much for joining in. We send our best to John as well. John will rejoin us next week for the Open Championship week recap. That'll be fun. Andy, hopefully you'll be part of that too. But that's all for me. Any last parting shots before we go?
Stranger Things season 4 is amazing. I took a while to actually get involved, and I don't know if you guys watch that show.
I do.
It's awesome.
Nice.
I'm only about halfway through the season.
Okay. Did they release the other end of it? Like there were 2 episodes that were kind of hanging there. Okay.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
Those came out last week on Netflix.
Good. I will start on that. I've watched seasons 1 through 3, so I'm looking forward to 4. That'll be really fun. So, good advice. Ron?
Yeah, I don't watch Stranger Things, but that'll be on my list soon. But I did see the new Doctor Strange today. I watched it while I was working. I was
sweet
stealing time at work. So, I watched
How
it.
was it?
I liked it a lot. Yeah, I know the critics really didn't like it, but I thought it was really good. My wife watched it; she liked it. So, it's Marvel's too woke, but we enjoy that. So
no, I'm all in on every Marvel, just for we got to for the continuity situation. It's like you're not. I don't know what you're like if you're not up to speed on the Marvel, you're just behind,
Yeah.
Yeah, and Miss Marvel, I know Tia, our friend Timmy Russo, said he wasn't a fan. I think it's awesome. So put that on your list.
Cool.
Another an Indian American superhero. I'm sure it's not making the right wingers happy, but I thought it was a pretty good. I think it's a pretty good show.
That's cool. That's cool. I'm down.
Show me. I don't know.
Yeah. Right on. I love those tips too. Yeah, Marvel is not let up. You thought Endgame was going to be the peak. No, there's still a lot going on with them. So, good stuff. The Thor movie, you guys going to watch that pretty soon? New Thor?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah. I think I'm in the mode of waiting for it to come on to Disney Plus.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yep, 100%. Same.
We'll do it.
Same schedule.
Decent strategy there, honestly. Yeah, because it gives you a chance to catch up on anything else too. So, Andy, that's great. You're roughly caught up. I know you were watching that from the beginning. That's really impressive.
Yeah, I started with Captain America #1, and Iron Man 1. And I started almost basically 2 years ago.
Wow. All
caught up. Even watched Moon Knight. I couldn't tell you what Moon Knight was about by seeing on the episode, but you got to stay for the post-credit scene. Just kind of, all right, see what happens next. And I am just a complete sucker for Marvel shows and Disney shows. Call me a lemming. I don't care.
Nah, but listen, they deliver. It's for the most part they do. So I dig it. So did you even watch that whatever it is that Iron that won something or other fist? Because I thought that show was kind of boring, the one that was on Netflix for a while. Did you ever see that one?
No, I know Fiddle watched. I don't know. Now I might be thinking of the DC stuff, but Fiddle might have watched all the Daredevil ones, which I will not do. I'm just talking about the movies and the Disney Plus shows.
Okay. Yeah.
Netflix. But so I actually did watch all the Agents of the Shield, but that's about it.
No, that's fine. You're missing absolutely zero with Iron Fist. This is before Disney Plus existed, so I watched this many, many years ago, and it was oh my god, it was so boring. I don't know, Ron. I don't know what you thought of it, but that's the one.
I actually, I didn't watch it. I was more the Marvel movies, until Disney Plus came and kind of put it all together. But something like that. I'll probably revisit it one day, but I have no desire to right now, especially with the way that the the studio's going. I mean, if they do reintroduce those characters, it'll probably be recasted or something like that. So there'll be no continuity
Sure.
with the show anyway. So it's hard to go back in time now once you're up to this point and watch that stuff.
No, right on. Honestly, good call on all that. All right, fellas, this is really fun. So have a great rest of your week, and keep on keeping on. It'll be fun to do it again next week. So take care, everybody. Good to see you again.
All right, see you guys.
See you, everybody.
See you, Ron. See you, Dave.
Bye, Randy. Bye, Ron.
Peace.
Take care. Oh, man. Good times. Good times. Boy, what a good show that was. So thanks again to Ron in New Jersey and Andy in Seattle. There was a lot to cover, and we covered a lot of it tonight with this impending move of two premier iconic institutions, historic institutions, over from the Pac-12 to the Big Ten, and all the things that went with it. It's going to be an very interesting couple of years in college football. And with that, we say goodnight. Thank you so much for tuning in, everybody. This has been fun. I didn't check the chat this entire time, so sorry. If you had something, oh man, okay, I didn't see anything, but that's fine. If you missed any part of it, you can catch the replay right here. If you're on YouTube, you can catch it on youtube.com/ditcow. If you are listening on the podcast, just rewind it, and you can catch all of our podcasts at ditcow.com or on your podcast player of choice. I'm Dave Medina. We'll see you next time.